Shanks is evil and the king of the underworld, and I can prove it. And it's not just because his nickname Akagami,
no Shanks.
when written different, means dirty god. That's something. But it's not just that. I explain why Shanks is evil by also using a real-life Yakuza that inspired him, and the fact that he is Rox D. Zebek's son. All of that is not facts, I hear you say? I brought proof. I reply. Let's start with Zebek being Shanks' dad and go from there. Shanks is just barely older than the God Valley incident that ended his father. In other words, Shanks was born just before Zebek died. Now, One Piece has a theme of fathers either dying when their kids are young or abandoning them, and then being raised by rivals and becoming the opposites of or opposing their biological fathers. Ace was raised by Roger's enemy Garp, hates Roger, and was raised by, supports, and loves his rival, Whitebeard. Yamato hates Kaido and idolizes his greatest rival and even calls himself Oden. Garp's son, Dragon, directly opposes Garp's employer, and his grandson does the same and chases after Garp's former enemy, Roger. Now, Zebek's rival was Roger, and who raised Shanks? That's right, Goldie Roger. The extent to which he raised him is unknown, but in the Oden flashback, Roger and Rayleigh mention how holding a baby Momo reminded them of the good old times. Implying that there once was a baby on the ship, which leads me back to Shanks being born just before his father's death, and One Piece having a theme of abandoned sons being raised by rivals. Roger was Zebek's rival. Roger took care of the infant whose father just died. Shanks, Zebek's son. You with me? Good, because this also ties into the Shanks and Blackbeard relationship, because Blackbeard clearly inherited Zebek's role and spirit as the big obvious baddie. Another reference to the whole twisted father-rival inheritance chaos, but that's not the point, because the Blackbeard-Shanks rivalry goes deeper than that. Shanks is a devil fruit dealer, and Blackbeard is a devil fruit thief.
Nani?
Well, allow me to explain by tying this to a Shanks real-life inspiration, a Yakuza named Shimizu Hirocho. Who? Well, time for Cliff Notes. The most famous Yakuza, a gambler who controlled the trading ports and its sea routes, aka a pirate, a swordsman, but most importantly, Shimizu Hirocho was a folk hero, a Robin Hood-like figure, and he was known to bury people properly after wars, even defying the government over their bodies. He was also known for settling major conflicts without casualties. At this point, all of y'all must be like, wait, he settled conflicts without casualties? He buried people properly after the war, even defying the government over it? Literally 2 of the actions we saw Shanks perform, 2 of his defining moments, along with losing the left arm, which ironically is also echoed in Yakuza cutting off their left pinky as punishment that dates back to ancient times when that was meant to cripple their swordsmanship. Swordsmanship. Another Shanks and Yakuza parallel, as is the fact that the Marines call Shanks Ogashira, a term used by Yakuza to refer to their boss. You starting to see how Shanks might be an underworld devil fruit dealer? I'll remind you again that Akagami can also mean dirty god. But I want to go back to the settling major conflicts thing because it further supports the evil Shanks of the underworld theory. How did Shanks get Kaido to not interfere at Marineford? How did he do that without bloodshed? Someone who runs the underworld and controls the devil fruit trade could easily threaten Kaido and make him do things. It's like a dealer threatening his customer to cut them off. Also, like any capable dealer, neither Shanks nor any of his crew use the product they're selling. None of them are devil fruit users. Plus, it would explain why Shanks was going out of his way to get his hands on the valuable devil fruit that Luffy ended up eating. But, while all of that means he has legendary evil blood in him, is inspired by Yakuza, and it colors him morally gray, it doesn't mean he's evil. That has simpler reasons. Shanks was there in Chapter 1. Oda knew the One Piece ending since Chapter 1. He's often reminded us of that. Oda did, however, not know that One Piece would go on for 25 plus years. For all he knew, it could have been over at Chapter 100 or even earlier. Blackbeard was introduced in Chapter 130. Pretty late for being the endgame antagonist that Oda knew about since Chapter 1. Shanks would have worked as the plot twist antagonist at any given point, and due to the Straw Hat and him saving Luffy would have made for an emotional end boss at any given point. And at the point we're at now, him as the antagonist would be an emotional overload of magnificence. This is the ending if he were to be the antagonist. Luffy returning the hat to a man that wasn't who he thought he was, but whom he thought of to be everything. Usopp facing his father, who he was chasing all his life, and Zoro facing off against Mihawk, the man he's been chasing all his life and whom he's fated to fight. Ah, damn, I forgot to set up Mihawk. Mihawk is a Shichibukai, but Shichibukai no longer exists, so now he's a dude with a sword and a boat, but with no affiliation. Shanks is the only pirate he has any relationship with. Mihawk was a Shichibukai because he wanted to be good with the world government. Shanks can stroll in and talk to the 5 elders like it's nothing. He's good with the world government. Mihawk would be good with the world government if he was with Shanks. Mihawk is gonna join Shanks' crew, not a spoiler, just an assumption, there you go. So, Shanks would set up a beautiful and emotional rewarding ending. And if you think about the whole 5 elders thing, they're genocidal maniacs. Why is Shanks cool with them? Why do they respect him? Certainly not because he's a goody two-shoes, and besides, who would be a goody two-shoes and take Kid's arm and inflict wild scars on Killer? Would Kid, who we see fighting side by side with Luffy, even hate Shanks to this extent without good reason? And also, why would Shanks say, we need to talk about a certain pirate to the 5 elders if he were, like we're led to believe, talking about Blackbeard? He openly mentioned Blackbeard's name and his hatred and worry plenty of times. Oda loves mystery and misdirection. It's odd for Blackbeard to be the mystery name here because it wouldn't be much of a mystery. It's much more likely that Shanks is talking about Luffy because Shanks is the final antagonist, because he has Zebek's blood running through him, because he shares wild similarities with the world's most famous Yakuza, and because he was there when Oda knew his ending and gave him his nickname Akagami, that when written in different kanji means dirty god or god of the filth. And if you like what I do here, then please do consider removing that plus right there, because I do these mythological, historical backgrounds for anime and manga every day. And if you follow, then I'll see you tomorrow. Alright? Alright. Bonus fact. Shanks' personality and his Yakuza influence, as well as the odd numbers 489 in the middle of his bounty of 4,489,000,000,000. I don't know, but there's a 489 in there. All tie him heavily to gambling, as does the left arm, because gamblers, when caught, pay off by having their left pinky chopped off. Taking all of that into consideration, it makes the statement Shanks made after losing his arm and saving Luffy all the more profound.
どんな敵にくれてやったんだその左腕。新しい時代にかけてきた。